We're going to run up ourselves a little Saturday night live session. What do you say, folks? It's November 25th, 2023. We are rocking and rolling here tonight. So much to cover. Confirming derivatives on XRP is the title. And the reason why I titled that is because if I put XRPL in the title, it doesn't get as much views or excitement as XRP. So even though it's kind of I'm misspeaking by saying derivatives on XRP confirmed, because really it's derivatives on the XRPL confirmed. That's why I did that. It's because we got to get folks in. We got to attract them to the party. And I only engage in ethical clickbait. You guys know my deal. So with that being said, I'm going to share this tweet out real quick. Let's get rocking and rolling. So much to cover. Derivatives, current events. Appreciate you guys for stopping in. I'm going to share this one out on X real quick. We are live now. And appreciate everyone for stopping in. Let's roll. So if you missed it, we did have our Discord weekly call this morning every Saturday at 8:30 a.m. Pacific. That's 11:30 Eastern. We run up a session with our Discord group, had another one, and just getting so excited as we already have 3 Discord meetups lined up for next year. And just before getting on the live call here tonight, I did see that Shannon booked her flight, booked her tickets for one of the next meetups that we got. So a huge shout out to Shannon, huge shout out to everyone else who's going to be coming along. And there's nothing like it. Nothing compares to being able to meet in person, shake hands, give a hug, and share an adult beverage and have a little bit of fun. And we're just getting started. This is before XRP goes to the moon. And planning and building and continuing to keep our energy positive through all the chaos and distractions is what our community is about. So if you're looking to get tapped in, it's ZachRector.com. You sign up through Patreon to get access to Discord. And right now through the end of the year, I'm going to be running a special. You get 13% off when you sign up for a 1-year subscription on Patreon. So take advantage of that if you want. Speak with your accountant or tax professional too about writing off the cost of your Patreon, because it is educational content for your business, for your investments, and we'll make sure that we get you completely tapped in with us. So with that being said, guys, let's start up the show here, taking a look at the markets. Basically sideways for everything today. Everybody's kind of have, a little hangover from Thanksgiving. No one's really moving or getting much done, and that does include the markets. As we see the Bitcoin sideways at 37.7, hasn't really moved much. I'm on the 4-hour chart here. We did see that breakout yesterday, right? We ran up the session last night to up to 38,400. Cooling back off here today below 38,000 and at 37.7 at the time of this recording, with Ethereum back below 2,100, but still above 2,000 for now. XRP back to 62 cents. This thing's really been chopping sideways. We didn't even really get to engage in the pump too much yesterday when Bitcoin and Ethereum went up. XRP only went up to about 62.5 cents, hanging out sideways right now. Really no action. XLM, a little move here today, up to about 12 cents right now. And we do see that the DXY did fall off here once again. That was yesterday, Friday. DXY falling back off. Oil back down to 80. We'll be watching that one. It did get cleaned out all the way down to about $73. Watching that one. And silver and gold both absolutely ripped over the last week or so. Really the last 2 weeks. Gold and silver have both ripped to the upside, back above 2,000. Actually, today we see that silver and gold, I didn't even realize this. We did get a pump back above $24 here once again for silver and for gold. I hadn't even looked at the charts here yet today, and so we absolutely love to see that. Now, we had a short trading day for your stocks on Friday, basically a half day. And the markets really didn't give us much. Dow Jones was back up slightly, a little bit of a move there. But overall, the stocks kind of been sleeping. This week, we didn't get much action except for in crypto. In crypto, we got a little something. Okay. Is there anything else, though, I wanted to show you guys? Coinbase has taken advantage of Kraken getting sued, of Binance getting in trouble. And so Coinbase has run all the way back up to $115. And really pretty significant run up for Coinbase here. If you look just over the last month, this thing has really ran up significantly. What's this move here for Coinbase? Just within the last month, 65%. That's pretty incredible. Pretty incredible for a stock, right? 65%. That's like 600% in crypto. So we're watching Coinbase take advantage of the crypto chaos continuing. Binance, the most recent sacrifice, 1 year after FTX got taken down, in large part by CZ trading against them. So it's just been an enjoyable show that we've been watching there. And if you guys are wondering what David Schwartz is up to tonight, he is at a restaurant and he is literally shoveling food into my mouth. So David Schwartz has his shovel. I don't know if that's a riddle. I don't know. He posted it at 6:56 p.m. That's West Coast time. I don't know if that's a riddle. I don't know if that's a decode. But David Schwartz is at a restaurant shoveling food into his mouth. Maybe he's talking about stacking our bags during this temporary dip before we make our next leg up. That might be what he's referring to. That might be what the riddle is right there. Let me know in the comments down below. What message is David Schwartz sending us as he is shoveling food into his mouth tonight? Literally. Okay. Let's go. Let's get it. On a serious note. So what we have right now is a prisoner swap. Palestinian official says 33 Palestinians have been released by Israel from a West Bank prison. So we have 33 prisoners released from a Palestinian folks released from an Israeli prison in the West Bank. 33, and then we see that there's been a kind of an exchange and a little bit of a ceasefire over the weekend. So it's very simple here. We get a temporary pause in the battle, a temporary ceasefire, continue to pray for peace, but we're going to be watching this situation here closely because, to me, I'm still weary that this is going to continue to go on. Just like in the situation Russia-Ukraine, we thought that that was going to be done relatively quickly, and it's carried on now for well over a year and a half, right? And it's going to be very interesting to see what happens here in the Middle East. This is a historical battle that's taking place over there right now. Without a doubt, on the 50-year anniversary of Yom Kippur, we look at, the 50-year, anniversary. You look at different 50-year cycles. We just got through a Jubilee year. So much lining up right now for a historical shift, not just in monetary policy, but in current events and, kind of world-shaking, world-shattering moves that we're seeing right now take place. This is good to see, though, that we get a little bit of relief today, a little bit of a ceasefire, and some prisoners getting released. That's good to see. Now, what's not good to see is we have a major Chinese shadow bank declaring itself severely insolvent. So, without a doubt, that debt, currency, and liquidity crisis continuing. China's major bank, Zhangji, declares severe insolvency. I probably butchered that one. With a $36 billion shortfall, signaling liquidity problems in the $2.9 trillion Chinese shadow banking sector. Now, it's funny, because we're going to be talking about derivatives later here tonight, and that's the shadow asset class that we don't even know how big it is. It's well over 1 quadrillion by most estimates, but we can't even get a firm number, right? But what at the market here, right here in China, Chinese shadow banking sector. I didn't know that they had a shadow banking sector that was 2.9 trillion. We definitely knew there was some shady activity going on over there. But as we continue to see, we have a major bank, Zhangji, declaring itself severely insolvent. Now, at least they're willing to admit it. Many folks out here in the West aren't willing to admit the $600 billion of unrealized losses on the balance sheets of the U.S. banks. And that's just on their bonds, by the way. So the debt, currency, and liquidity crisis continues. And we started out our Discord weekly call this morning, and I thought that our good friend David said it so perfectly. How many pieces out of this Jenga, we're stacking up the Jenga pieces, right? Putting together this puzzle, stacking it up, the house of cards. How many pieces of, blocks, how many Jenga blocks can be pulled out before this thing collapses? I mean, you are seeing it in real time on a daily basis. On a daily basis, I bookmark half a dozen or more posts that I can't even talk about on YouTube. And I save those to talk about on the Discord weekly call, or I just share them in the Discord group where I can go unfiltered, uncensored, and I can talk about stuff without having to worry about getting in trouble. But on a daily basis, I mean, it's not just a drip of truth coming on a daily basis. It's a flood of truth that is coming. And what you're seeing right now on the financial aspect of it too is it's being confirmed in the data. Many folks want to put on their blinders, and they're seeing the stocks go up, which is what always happens, is one last gasp of air before the victim's gonna fall fatal. And if you really want to get your blood boiling here, I'm going to play a clip here of former SEC Chair Jay Clayton, who is now saying that the decision, the discrepancy, the definition between a security and commodity is being way overblown, and that it's actually pretty easy to determine what is a security and commodity. Now, what's funny is I actually kind of agree with him on actually, I kind of do agree with him. But once again, Jay Clayton filing the case against Ripple on his last day as the chairman of the SEC. Let's take a listen in. He was nominated by Trump too.
I am very sympathetic to the entrepreneurs who wanted to reach out to the public to raise capital. And I'm very sympathetic to the retail investors who want those opportunities. A lot of what you saw in the ICO craze and what you see from crypto people is great frustration at that state of affairs.
Sure.
They're right to be frustrated. We should be looking at making it easier to raise capital for smaller and medium-sized companies, and making it easier for non-accredited investors or even accredited investors to participate in those opportunities.
Would love to hear about how you think about.
Now, that's incredible. In contrast to his predecessor, Gary Gensler, who says that we should raise accreditation to $10 million net worth. You little peasants with only $1 million net worth, you're too stupid to make investment decisions for yourself. That's what he's saying. And that's what they think of us. And if they don't think you're stupid, well, they want to lock you out of an opportunity to create generational wealth. You're supposed to be a slave to the wage and work for the man and invest your money with the Wall Street boys and girls, right? And so in complete contrast to what Gary Gensler says, Jay Clayton is now saying that we need to open up opportunities for non-accredited investors as well. Wow. Gee.
The appropriate way to regulate cryptocurrency, digital assets, which you've already touched on, and some of the trade-offs which you consider. And if you wouldn't mind also commenting on how you think that's different from the current administration and why you think they have a different perspective.
Yeah. So I think the appropriate way to regulate crypto is to recognize that it's a technology, not a product. It's a different technology for, in almost all cases, delivering a product that we already know in sometimes a more efficient way. Look, I don't know whether it's going to be worth a little or a lot, but I am at the point where I think the market can decide. There's enough, what I would say is efficacy in trading and the like, where we can get to that point. But in terms of regulating crypto, I've sort of been, it's a technology. I think the classification issues about whether a product is a security or commodity are overblown. I think most of those decisions are pretty easy. To the extent that we are going to continue to wrestle with those classification decisions, I say get on with it. Let's have regulated platforms where you can put either, waiting until those classification decisions get decided.
So it wouldn't be overblown if he wouldn't have been dropping lawsuits against Ripple, if Chair Gensler wouldn't have been dropping lawsuits against all these other parties without us getting any sort of clarity, right? He wants to go battle it out in the courts. That's fine, Jay. You filed the case against Ripple. You ended up losing that case. That's an L for you, and that's an L for Chair Gensler and the broader SEC bureaucracy beast agency that has been completely corrupt, with you and your buddies getting paid out while you sue the new kids on the block that are trying to come into compliance and do the right thing. But you need to stall things up. You need to create, you need to play your role on the world stage, which is what this is. Because it seems to me like Jay gets it. He wants more opportunities for non-accredited. He wants to open up our capital markets, right? But it's hypocrisy, right? On one end, he's speaking this years later after he made Ripple go through $200 million in legal fees to get this clarity. And that's the beautiful thing. If you want to fight it out in court, that's fine. Finally, we get somebody that stands up with a backbone in Ripple and puts you back in your place. with Judge Torres also putting you back in your place by denying interlocutory appeal. Stand down. And with all these others, Kraken, we see what happens when you bend over, you give in, and you just cut a check to these regulators and think that you're going to be good. Kraken settled up for $30 million for their staking earlier this year, just about 10 months ago. And the SEC said, thank you for doing business. Thank you for giving us that check. 10 months later, they turn back around and sue Kraken again, not for their staking, but for selling 16 cryptocurrencies that they deem to be crypto asset securities, a definition, a term that they're making up, and that they have not been able to prove in a court of law yet. Now, maybe they will be. That's the whole thing. Will Kraken settle up here once again? Will they get a backbone and fight it? Or are they going to give in? We'll see. Binance, and yes, I am saying Binance wrong. I saw someone asking. Yes, from here on out, I'm going to call it Binance forever in honor of Treasury Secretary Janet Notel Yellen's comments that were just hilarious. We are going to be calling it Binance forever. They were able to squeeze $4 billion out of Binance, and they were so happy to do that, right? Kraken, we see what turned out with them. They have a case now against Coinbase. They filed other lawsuits as well. Grayscale, they've taken losses there. They took a huge loss in the Ripple case, and they are getting pushed back. And this is where I actually kind of agree with Jay Clayton in that it is very clear if you create an investment contract that meets the Howey prong test, that is a security. Now, when the SEC is now trying to add a decentralization prong to the Howey test, that has to be proven in a court of law or it has to be passed by Congress. And at this point, it looks like we're not going to get a response from Congress. So to that, I say, let's battle it out in court. And if Kraken wants to stand up and put up a fight like Ripple did, that would be great. I don't know if they have the money. I don't know if they have the cojones. Ripple did. Ripple won. The only place that they lost was on institutional sales. But I think that they have a very strong case even if they wanted to appeal it. My prediction has always been and still is, though, that this case will end in settlement and we won't even get clear definitions on those institutional sales. Or they'll basically pay a small fine and move on, and we still don't get clarification on security versus commodity. But to me, it is very clear. I actually do agree. In that part, I do agree with Clayton. Because when you look at a lot of these ICOs, they did constitute an investment contract that met the Howey prong test that goes back for 80 plus years. That is very clear. The case for XRP was very clear too, and that's the hypocritical part. For Jay Clayton to be sitting up here acting all happy slappy to talk about it being clear, it being overblown. Well, you know, $200 million later and 3 years in a lawsuit and, you know, hundreds of billions in damages done, probably over $1 trillion in damages done. Now we want to sit here and hypocritically say that it's clear and then it's being overblown. Well, that's because you guys are doing regulation through enforcement, or as Tom Emmer called it, regulation through harassment, right? That's the hypocrisy. Now, let's continue on here because I got a lot to share with you guys. The hypocrisy. Speaking of hypocrites, this is a perfect example. All the Bitcoin and Ethereum maxis, as I call the mainstream crypto Ponzi scheme, right? They always talk about hating on XRP, hating on Ripple. They called us fraudsters, called us scamsters, called the XRP community conspiracy theorists, lunatic whack jobs, even though we've been vindicated on everything that we've discovered. And sure enough, they all have a little moon bag. They all have a little moon bag of XRP. So convenient. And what am I talking about today? Well, we're talking about the investors in 21 shares, which if you missed it, we talked about this earlier this week. There's already multiple exchange traded products that are going live in Europe. Some that are already live, a new one that's going live in December, and 21 shares is one of them. It's an exchange traded product, very similar to an ETF, essentially the same thing. Now, Chad Steingraber, huge shout out to Chad. He shares this one with us. The investors in 21 shares includes none other than our good friend Anthony Pompliano, one of the biggest haters of XRP and Ripple, right? Catherine Wood, that would be Kathy Wood from ARK Innovation, big Bitcoin maxi essentially, right? Sure enough, she's invested here in 21 shares. And then also Morgan Creek Digital, which is the hedge fund of Anthony Pompliano. That's their fund, is Morgan Creek Digital. So we got these Bitcoin maxis, Ethereum maxis. Kathy, Bitcoin do $1 million, would, you know, and I don't know if she's made $1 million Bitcoin predictions, probably has, but it's very clear. These guys, they flip-flop, they run this deal, they try to sell their Bitcoin pizzas. Meanwhile, what are they doing? They all got their little XRP moonbag, and they're not afraid to call it out. Back in 2018, 2017 best performing crypto assets. Look at Pompliano's tweet right here from January 2nd, 2018, just 2 days before Ripple XRP hit its all-time high of $3.84. 2017 best performing crypto assets, Ripple, 36,000%. Even Pompliano himself threw some respect on XRP. And Alex Cobb says Pomp is undercover XRP bag holder confirmed. He touts BTC because of bigger audience, which is better for the company's platforms he invested in. Good to know. And it's so true. Maybe I ought to do that, actually, now that I think of that. Maybe I got to I need to be making more Bitcoin videos. The problem is I always keep it real. I'm not going to lie to anyone. And so I always share the truth about Bitcoin and how I feel about Bitcoin. And that always offends the Bitcoin bros. That's okay. But the hypocrisy runs rampant in this space. And Pompliano shared this tweet. You can never forget this classic from 2017. He says, if you think that Bitcoin went on a tear once CNBC and institutional investors learned about it, just wait till they discover Ripple XRP. Folks, you can't make this up. This is a real tweet that he put out in 2017. I remember this like it was yesterday. And it's funny because when I got into crypto, Pompliano, I listened to all of his podcasts. I actually have a lot of respect for Pomp. I think his podcast is decent. I think it's good. He gave Chris Larson an episode in 2022 that was pretty fair, actually. But he's kind of a silly guy and he plays stupid when it comes to XRP. But on the back end, as you can see, he's invested in an issuer of an ETP in Europe that's issuing an XRP ETF, essentially. It's an exchange-traded product over in Europe. The hypocrisy runs rampant in these folks. And they shill you all this other crap because Ripple won't pay them. Ripple doesn't pay us influencers, even though people think that we're paid by Ripple. No, Ripple doesn't pay us. And that's why all these other shills, they shill a bunch of ERC20 tokens. They shill Bitcoin. They shill what was one of Pompliano's biggest sponsors, BlockFi, which he was an investor in as well. See how that works? And so just like Cobb says, they tout Bitcoin and Ethereum and ERC20 tokens because you get a bigger audience, which is better for the company's platforms that he's invested in. Or, as we saw with the other influencers, it was the Ethereum and the ERC20 tokens that they would get in on, whether they were paid with the tokens, whether they were paid with cash, or whether they were able to get in on the launch pads, all these launch pad DAOs. Remember Infinity Launchpad and all the crap that came out of that launch pad? Yeah. It allowed for all of these insiders to pump and dump, right? This is what we've all exposed, and it's so interesting to see it come full circle. They badmouth Ripple, they badmouth XRP. Have they put out any shows talking about the success in the SEC lawsuit? Have they put out any, statements kind of, pulling back some of the stuff that they said in the past about Ripple being about fraud and scams? No, they're nowhere to be seen. And maybe if they do come and put a piece out, they cheerlead XRP's victory like this is great for the space, even though we've been making the very clear case that the XRP facts and circumstances and what Ripple did is completely different from what the rest of the space did. It was never really going to provide clarity for the rest of the space because Ripple never did an ICO, and XRP is fully decentralized, unlike 90% of crypto. So that's the whole thing. Is they cheerlead XRP now because they think it's good for the space. It's not really good. It's good for facts and circumstances of crypto projects that, are similar to XRP. That's it. And it's incredible. Right now we're seeing they are coming out with their funds. They're coming out with them as fast as possible, without a doubt. And I'm going to show you guys Larry Fink a little bit later in this show, BlackRock CEO Larry Fink, talking about the tokenization of the securities market as well. It's going to be absolutely massive. But if you missed it, I did an episode earlier this week. There's already 3 exchange traded products live in Europe right now. Well, one of them is going live in December, I guess. So there's a couple already live, one more going live in December. And it's only a matter of time before we get an ETF here in the United States as well for XRP as well. Now, huge shout out to Crypto Airy for sharing a couple of these videos here today. I actually brought up a couple of her posts here in tonight's episode. Huge shout out to Crypto Airy. At Ripple, quote, payments are now becoming a smaller part. Information almost became zero cost. Exactly the same thing will happen to money as well. Don't worry about where digital assets are going. Invest in picks and shovels. You can't go wrong with that. Now, what this refers to is during the gold rush, for folks that invested in the companies that were doing the mining, they were doing the production, the processing, right? That's where folks made considerable amount of money, along with speculating on the underlying asset as well, too. So there's a place for that. And what I think that he is making, with these statements right here, this is Naveen Gupta from Ripple, is that they've figured out payments. The only other missing link to payments in the XRPL DEX is going to be that AMM, which is going to be coming here soon. But this statement right here means to me that they've already got payments secure. Now they're worried, or now they're focused on the tokenization of all the other assets, and along with that, custody as well. Medico, was the big acquisition that Ripple made this year. Let's listen in here on what he has to say.
As a Ripple, we are an enterprise crypto payment solutions company. Our payments is now becoming a smaller part. Lots of other things are emerging and becoming bigger and bigger. So let's take simply an institution that wants to use crypto for any purpose, either for tokenization, for payments, for custody. We are building solutions to essentially provide that. We are one-stop shop for an institution that wants to delve into cryptos, right? Information almost became zero cost. So you can send millions and millions of email. It really doesn't matter. All you pay is $39.99 per year, per month, or per year, depending upon your subscription fee. Exactly the same thing will happen to money as well. My advice would be, don't worry about where digital assets are going. Invest in picks and shovels. So Levi's, which produce jeans, people who were producing picks and shovels, you can't go wrong with that because the industry will become 50, 100 times bigger, and the infrastructure will always win, irrespective of which digital asset wins. As a
Right. Yeah, so the tools, right, the picks and the shovels that they use to get the gold out of the ground, and the Levi jeans that the miners wore as well. That's what he's talking about. And so for me, I appreciate the sentiment, and I agree 100% with what he's saying, but I'm going to hold the underlying asset, and I'm going to invest in the picks and shovels, right? That's what I'm doing. I'm not here to give anybody else financial advice, but that's what I'm doing. And I'm going to play a clip right here and show you what Larry Fink, CEO of BlackRock, what they're doing, which is the tokenization of all of the securities, and just touting and bragging how important the ETFs have become. See, instead of buying bonds now, or buying, basically buying individual stocks, you are seeing individual retail traders that are now buying more ETFs because they want to get diversified exposure to different sectors, whether that's crypto, whether that's AI, you name it, right? Whether you package up bonds in some sort of ETF, right? You're seeing ETFs have grown substantially. And right now, CEO of BlackRock, Larry Fink, listen to this loud and clear. The next generation of markets will be the tokenization of securities. We have been a huge part of the revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Listen in on this. This is a 10 trillion. Well, they used to have 10 trillion under management. Their money, they've lost a little bit. I think they're down to about 9 trillion assets under management.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of the huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. And if we can have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner every beneficial seller, we all have our code
Right.
of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
It's been so enjoyable to watch how, CEO of BlackRock, Larry Fink, has basically been given the green light to start going live with crypto and DLT conversations, talking about how cryptocurrencies are going to transcend traditional currencies. That was the big statement that he made on CNBC, I believe. Now you see him here with Andrew Ross Sorkin, and they're talking here about ETFs and how big those are growing. And BlackRock's, the largest actually fund manager of the pensions across the United States of America, right? They're one of the biggest asset managers here. And they're only going to grow as you see that they're leaning into this stuff while they've kind of been in the shadows talking about it behind the scenes. And now they've given the green light to Larry Fink, which tells me we are very close to beginning this next bull run. By the time they've greenlit the CEO of BlackRock to go live, they've already got their ducks in a row. They already have their ETFs ready to go. And we've talked about the connections between BlackRock and Ripple many, many times. Can we confirm that BlackRock has any XRP? No. Can we confirm that BlackRock's going to do an XRP ETF? No. Do we believe that there's a good chance that they could do both of those things? Absolutely. Absolutely. They would love to. They would love to, as he's bragging about the adoption of ETFs. And you have active traders that are just wanting to get exposure. The whole bond market is being redone. You have to understand, it's not just bonds from the U.S. Treasury. You also have municipality bonds. You have corporate bonds. Right? All of this is getting changed, and what's happening is getting tokenized. And he said, if only we had a distributed ledger. He starts waving his hand around like it's some sort of magic voodoo. He doesn't really understand it. And that's the beautiful thing about being, the CEO of BlackRock. In his position, he doesn't need to understand it at all. These guys are just having a good old happy slappy time because they let the kids run it. They let the quants, the dozens upon dozens of hundreds of developers and quants and nerds at their deployment that they have, some of the best engineers in the world, that are building out all the algorithms, that are building out the ETFs, and they're ready to control this whole thing. And when you look at these markets that we're talking about tokenizing, you look at securities, hundreds of trillions. You look at derivatives like we titled this session here tonight, and as I'm about to get into, over 1 quadrillion. Folks, it doesn't take much. I've never said we have to get all the money. We just have to get a little piece of the action and we go somewhere fun, without a doubt. Now, another one here from Crypto Airy. 3 big takeaways from Ripple's swell, and this is Naveen Gupta once again. Dubai has taken over San Francisco Silicon Valley for crypto blockchain. Dubai becoming the new hub for crypto. And Ripple just dominating in the Middle East, setting up that new hub in Dubai. Absolutely love to see it. Says the Middle East is 2 to 3 times bigger than the US for remittances, with a global branch coming. Love to see it. Next big use case coming up, custody. And did they pick up a little company for that? Absolutely. Medico. Acquired. Deal is done. Let's listen in.
Joining me here, we have Naveen, who is the Managing Director for the MENA region, Middle East and North Africa for Ripple. How are you?
Very good. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. The reason Silicon Valley happened, because we had entrepreneurs, we had investments, and we had enabling regulations. And that's the reason Silicon Valley, which is the birthplace of the top 5 firms in the world. Exactly the same momentum today we have in the UAE as well. You have enabling regulation with somebody like Vara. The CEO spoke in the morning. You have builders here in the room who are building companies. And then you have investment available with number of sovereign funds, and then many VC firms which are here. And this combination is powerful exactly to create a Silicon Valley for the crypto industry.
So you say that Dubai could be the next Silicon Valley? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, 100%. At least for the crypto industry, for blockchain, Dubai currently is and will continue to be the Silicon Valley. Middle East, in fact, as a region, is 2 or 3 times bigger than the largest remittance market in the world, that's United States, right? In fact, I would personally think at some point, we would have global brands from the Middle East in remittance business itself, and it's not too far away.
Okay, so that has been the biggest use case so far for Ripple clients, you would say, remittances, cross-border payments?
So that's been the biggest use case, but the other use case that's coming up is custody.
And it's going to be the tokenization of every other asset right? And we're talking about derivatives. As I titled this session here tonight, Derivatives on XRP Confirmed. Now, I messed up on purpose, right? Because titles with XRP do better than titles with XRPL. Most people don't want to understand the tech. They just want to know, when does my token, when does my investment go up in XRP? And so the reason why I titled it Derivatives on XRP Confirmed was just for that, to get everybody in for the party here tonight on a Saturday Night Live. And if you haven't already, please make sure that you smash that like button for us. If you're new here too, make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell. And let's talk about derivatives being confirmed on the XRPL. We saw that the next use case he mentioned was custody, but we understand that they have just been accepted into the International Swaps and Derivatives Association. And so who found this one here today was our good friend Cowboy Crypto, one of the best researchers here in the space. Huge shout out to Cowboy Crypto. Rahul Advani, who is currently the policy director at Ripple, is ex-assistant director at the ISDA. ISDA has 3 listed board members that are ex-president and CEO for Citigroup Global Markets Japan, ex-Barclays chief executive of corporate investment banking, and ex-Deutsche Bank managing director and ex-Goldman Sachs. So, pretty good group to be a part of, right? And when you look, this announcement was made here in August of this year, just a few months ago. Ripple, a crypto payment solution, announced its membership with the ISDA. The strategic move came as a pleasant surprise to XRP community members as it positioned XRP to fully partake in the massive $1.2 quadrillion derivatives market. And who do we have? We have Rahul Advani, who is currently, right now, as we speak, as we run up a live session here on a Saturday Night Live, he is the policy director at Ripple. APAC. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. And when we look, for those of you that are wondering, what is a derivative? Well, here's your answer. A derivative is something that is based on another source, an arrangement or instrument such as a future option or warrant whose value derives from and is dependent on the value of an underlying asset. Now, the point that I've been trying to make this whole time is that we already have derivatives live on the XRPL because every, what were formerly called issued assets, now we just call them all tokens on the XRPL. They are all essentially a form of derivative when you look at the correct definition of a derivative, an arrangement or instrument whose value is derived from and is dependent on the value of an underlying asset. So whether the token on the XRPL is supposed to represent, maybe it's an NFT of a penguin, or maybe it's a real estate transaction, maybe it's, you name it, whatever you want to tokenize on the XRPL. All of these tokens are a form of derivative on the XRPL. And we have a DEX, a decentralized exchange, to be able to transact these through seamlessly in 3 to 5 seconds. And now when we go to the website, xrpl.org, and we look up the definition of tokens, you can see how similar this is to what a derivative is. All assets other than XRP can be represented in the XRP ledger as tokens. Standard tokens are tracked in relationships called trust lines between accounts. Any account can issue tokens to other recipients who are willing to hold them, but you cannot unilaterally give tokens away to users who don't want them. Tokens can represent any type of value, including stablecoins backed by assets that exist outside of the ledger. Purely digital tokens created specifically on the XRP ledger, community credit, and more. Now, we also have NFTs that are now live too. They cite that right there, but I want to scroll down to stablecoins. A common model for tokens in the XRP ledger is that an issuer holds assets of equivalent value outside of the XRP ledger and issues tokens representing that value on the ledger. That's a derivative, folks. That is the definition of a derivative, right? This type of issuer is sometimes called a gateway because currency can move into and out of the XRP ledger through the service. You know, you can call them a gateway, you can call them a derivatives issuer, you can call them a token issuer. It's all the same thing. If the assets that back a token use the same amounts and denomination as the tokens in the ledger, that token can be considered a stablecoin because in theory, the exchange rate between that token and its off-ledger representation should be stable at 1-to-1. That is essentially what a derivative is. And as you can see, there's a lot of crap. Just because it's a derivative doesn't mean that it has actual value, right? Someone creates a token. If I create Zach token, what's going to give it value? My name? Maybe that's worth a little something, I guess, but I'm sure we could. But I have no interest in launching a token right now. Eventually, we are going to do an NFT project of some sort, I'm sure. That's in the works, long-term plan. But in the meantime, I don't plan on issuing any assets on the XRP ledger. But I run through these scenarios of folks that are going to be able to tokenize every single form of value, whether it's commodities, whether it's real estate, whether it's, you talk about everything that we're looking to tokenize. It's all happening. And now with the additional utilities that are coming to the XRPL, it makes it more available and easier to want to choose the XRPL. As we just saw Credifi, an institution, a financial institution in the Eurozone that is allowing folks to collateralize their cryptocurrencies, and then they issue out loans to small and medium enterprises. This is providing an opportunity for folks to collateralize their crypto, right? And basically earn a reward, earn an interest rate return for collateralizing your crypto. And what they did is they didn't partner up with Ripple. They just chose the XRPL. I thought this was one of the biggest announcements that we've had recently in the XRP ecosystem because it didn't include Ripple. And that is the start of a new trend, a new wave of legitimate businesses and builders that are going to be coming to the XRPL because now they can do NFTs. As we talked about with NF token escrow, you're going to be able to escrow a token too. So if you wanted to put a property represented as a token on the ledger, and you want to be able to have escrow features as well, so when you go to sell that property, you can say, hey, put $5,000 up as an escrow payment to secure the property while you do your 30 days due diligence. This is how we conduct the future of finance on the XRPL. This is happening in real time. We have derivatives here live, and not only that, we've been accepted, Ripple has been accepted into the ISDA, and they have a former policy director, now is at the policy director here at Ripple as well. He was ex-assistant director at the ISDA. Now he's moved to policy director for APAC here for Ripple. So you can see clear connections. We've shown the connections with BlackRock as well. And what did Larry Fink, CEO of BlackRock, say tonight? He said that they're going to tokenize all of the securities, everything. And they're going to be happy as a clam to offer you an ETF of the underlying asset, no matter what it is. And the underlying asset is always the most valuable. See, just because I'm talking about how exciting this is, it's because the underlying asset goes up in value. It's not because I want to invest in an ETF. I'm not going to let my grandma or grandpa invest in an ETF with Wall Street, with BlackRock. We're going to say thank you very much, but let's go get you the underlying asset in your safe, in your custody, in your cold storage wallet, whether it's precious metals or whether it's crypto. And you guys already know the deal. If you need precious metals, we got you covered at my website. If you need to roll over a 401k retirement account, we got you covered there too. Final point of the show here tonight. If you haven't already, make sure you smash that like button for us. We appreciate it when you share the content out far and wide too. Lachlan Todd, who I just interviewed, he's been hired by Ripple X to write blog posts and talk about the XRPL. He's done a fantastic job putting together some threads, and he shares a fantastic post here tonight, a very healthy reminder for everyone in this space. Even though we're talking about getting access to $1.2 quadrillion derivatives market, even though we're talking about tokenizing all of the securities, we have to remind ourselves just how early we are in this digital asset class. Crypto adoption is on pace with the internet's adoption, but we are still early, rough about 1997, which in 1997, we hadn't even reached 1 billion users of the internet. True innovation, great user experience, and more are all to come, but the tech's real, 100%. And he shares a source here. Andreessen Horowitz shares this picture right here with us. This is your adoption. Now, as you can see, this is a fantastic comparison, right? Because it's very similar technology, rapidly growing, exponentially growing. But we're only at a point here with an estimated 20 to 120 million crypto users today. We are not even near, we're nowhere near 1 billion users. So you think about that, right? We're back here in about 1997, 1996. The internet didn't even reach 1 billion users until about 2005. 1 billion internet users in 2005. The internet started way back here in 1990. So if we look at where we're at for, crypto adoption and where we would be 1 billion users, it runs us till 2031. So this is why we say, have patience right now. It's a great reminder to wrap up this episode here tonight. Have patience on where we're at. It's without a doubt where we're going in the right direction. 2004 to 2025, we're about to enter the next bull run, and we go up substantially. We get hundreds of millions of new users coming into crypto. And when you look at the user basis, us growing by 2-3x, right? And in fact, we haven't even reached 1 billion users at, even if you run with the high end, we're at 100 million users or 120 million. Well, just to achieve 10 billion users, that's a 10x. That sounds good to me, right? 10x the users. What do you think is going to happen to the price of these underlying assets? What happens when we get rid of 90% of crypto, right? You can start to see the trajectory of this thing. And so we're right in the right spot. 2024 to 2025 takes us somewhere fun, for sure. Double-digit XRP, most likely. And then when you look at where we go by 2030, Agenda 2030, what's the plan? Well, you know what the plan is. We're not really excited about all of their Agenda 2030 plan, but it's intelligent to recognize it, understand it, and then position ourselves accordingly. And for me, it's been utility with no counterparty risk. That's where I double down on. Utility with no counterparty risk, and we don't back down. Even though they've been trying to FUD us out of this space, even though that they've rug pulled the Main Street economy with the Fed's decision to raise interest rates at the fastest pace in history, it rug pulled Main Street. It's killing us off slowly. And it's slowly at first, but then it's going to be all of a sudden here. And what's interesting to watch is the response from the Federal Reserve and the government. I believe that we get Black Swan between now and our next election. We get Black Swan between now and our next election, which is coming up just 1 year away. And what is the response going to be from what occurs, that Black Swan event, whatever it ends up being, right? And if the response is what it's been in the past, it's maybe going to be bailouts, maybe it's going to be bail-ins. Bail-ins, remember what they've changed. They've changed the laws for bail-ins to be allowed. So you have to understand that, right? And you have to understand the counterparty risk of even just keeping your money in the bank, which is why we stack it up, which is why we stuff it in our safe, why we bury it in our backyard, why we put it in our cold storage wallet, is we want utility with no counterparty risk. And what we're watching right now is potentially going to be one of the last pullbacks before I think we do continue back up. But just watch carefully for any Black Swan event coming in sometime in the next year. I think that we're definitely lining up for something like that in the cards. So I'm staying liquid with capital on the sidelines, ready for that opportunity. But if they want to send it and we just want to go straight up from here, essentially, that's fine. Let's have a good time. I'll cheers to that all night long. That works for me too. Don't be calling it early, Zach. Okay, let's run up a session Q&A. What do you guys say? Guys, it really does help support the show when you use our affiliates. We have affiliates for precious metals, crypto exchanges, wallets. That's all I'm going to say on that. I'm not going to run you any longer. You don't have to listen to any ads when you come into one of my live shows. Appreciate everyone also for smashing that thumbs up. Really do appreciate it. Let's do Q&A. And 3x isn't too bad. Yeah, that's the thing, is that you look conservative predictions on where we go. This is a life-changing opportunity. The ETFs, see, what happened with gold is after the ETF was approved, it ran up 500%, from about 300 per ounce to 1900 per ounce. In fact, I'm glad that you asked that. First silver ETF. Let's Google that. First silver ETF were introduced in the early 2000s. Sure enough, just like with gold. Looking up Investopedia right now. Early 2000s. Okay. So yeah, similar to gold, early 2000s. ETF's physical silver was launched in 2007. The U.S. Geological Survey cites the emergence of silver ETFs as a significant factor in the 2007 to 2011 price rise of silver. Okay, so they're talking about that rise. When was the first ETF, though? $2006. I'm pulling 2006. I'm also pulling 2007. Okay. So a couple years after gold is when we first started to get silver ETFs. Let's go check the chart. Let's see what happened. Let's zoom out here. Let's go on and do our monthly chart. And we'll go pull up our silver here. I wonder what happened. I wonder what happened. Wow. Sure enough. No surprise. No surprise. Let me bring that thing back into scale for us. So 2006, right in here. We're on the monthly chart, okay? So monthly candles that we're looking at right here. And where was silver trading at, right? It had been moving sideways all through 2005. That's very interesting. Look at this thing just moving flat sideways all through the 90s. This thing did nothing. This thing did absolutely nothing. Between $4 per ounce and then up to about $6 per ounce. And then in 2006, the first ETFs get approved and silver goes all the way up to $21 per ounce. And then it topped out here at $50 per ounce. And that was in 2011. April 2011, we go up to $50 per ounce. Look at that, folks. Now, let's measure this out. What are we talking about for gains? Let's just pick a random point, $4, 4.26. Let's measure. What are we looking at? 1,000%. How about a 10? Well, that was simple math. Sometimes I'm kind of slow when it comes to math, to be honest. I should have been able to calculate that. Basically $5 to 50. That's a 10x, right? Guys, gold does a 5x, 500% after the ETF. Silver does a 10x. What do you think crypto is going to do? What do you guys think that crypto is going to do, the underlying assets for these ETFs after they get approved? I think that they're going to do more than 10x. Because this is a new asset class. Folks had been getting exposure to gold and silver for years, for decades, for centuries, literally. For thousands of years, people had exposure to gold and silver. People only discovered digital currencies. Bitcoin came on the scene just about, over 12 years ago. It's barely a decade old. We're going to go, I don't know if we're going to the moon or where we're going, but we're going somewhere. Simple math. What price are you going to start selling your XRP Messiah? That's a good question. I'm looking at trading in between $5 and $10. I'm looking to see what happens between $5 and $10. Math gets even harder when you add an S to the maths. Shout out to our British friends in the chat. I don't know if we have any British friends in the chat. Usually it's pretty late by now. I know that over in the UK, it's middle of the night. So I don't know if we have any of the Brits in the chat tonight, but huge shout out to you guys and your maths. Love it. Absolutely love it. Peaceful Gamer, good to see you, brother. Richard, good to see you. If you make a comparative assessment in price trend of Bitcoin and Ethereum price movement averaged out from 2017 to now compared to XRP, ETH, and Bitcoin are beating XRP by around 4% or so. Yeah, no, for sure. Bitcoin and Ethereum have beat XRP depending on where you pull from. But as we talked about earlier in the show, remember this one. And I see the super chats. I'll get to the super chats here in just 1 second. But remember this one. The best performing assets of 2017, according to Bitcoin Maxi Pompliano, was Ripple, which of course he misspoke. It should have said XRP 36,000%. So depending on where you pull, if you want to cherry pick, you can cherry pick a point in time when XRP actually surpassed Ethereum to become the number 2 coin. So depending on where you want to pick from, right, XRP has outperformed Bitcoin and Ethereum in the past. Now, our first super chat from Miguel Jimenez, 10 spot. I'm blessed to be a part of the Discord community, brother Zach. We are ready, taking advantage of this greatest opportunity, the greatest transfer of wealth in world history. Miguel, much love to you, brother. And a huge shout out to you because I see you. I see the dips come in and you're just constantly picking up that dip. And that's commitment, that's faith, and that's doing what it takes to take advantage of the greatest transfer of wealth in world history, right? Not just putting out a meme, not just talking about it, but dollar cost averaging, even when it hurts, even when you're frustrated with XRP. You know, gosh, we're down again, but then you go and you load up that bag, picking up that bag. And Miguel, that's what we do. Shane XRP, huge shout out to you, Shane. Good to see you. When will you have Simon McLaughlin back on? 589. Appreciate you, Shane. Great question. It's time to get him back, isn't it? I'll send out a message this weekend. Let's see if we can get him back in the next week or so. I'm sure we can. I'm sure we can. We've got a good relationship now with Simon and Uphold. Now, I think that I missed another super chat. My apologies if I missed your super chat from earlier in the show. I was too busy ranting. Oh, shoot, I missed it. Okay. I'm sorry. I think that there was one or two others. My apologies for missing those super chats. Much love to you. Thank you for the support. Yep, we're going to have a lot of folks that aren't ready. I'm not even going to be ready for it, honestly. I mean, I'm trying to prepare myself for when XRP starts to break to new all-time high and beyond. We're going to be losing our minds. Just look at what XRP does when it pumps to 75 cents when the rest of the space is dead. Look at what XRP does when it goes to $1. When it went to $2, oh my gosh. I'll never forget, 2021. We didn't even get to participate in the bull run. But just having XRP back above $1, back above $1.50, what a time, man. I remember at the time I was just making TikToks and it was super easy because you could just make a TikTok with some nice, cool beat playing. One of my favorite instrumentals to play on my TikToks is In the Club, 50 Cent. Huge shout out to 50 Cent. One of my favorite instrumentals. And I would just play an instrumental with the chart in the background, with the smile. The sun was shining. It was April 2021. XRP was above $1. Pushing towards 2. What a time. And we were losing our minds. And we thought that XRP was going to be going to all-time high and it was going to be imminent. And then we got snubbed. I don't think that we're going to get snubbed again. Now, depending on your perspective, you might say that XRP is getting snubbed because it's not going to 589 and it stops at $10, $15, $20. That's okay if you want to call that being snubbed. I say, let's be patient. Because I just showed you guys, we still have a 10x growth that is coming over the next decade just within users. What's going to happen to the underlying assets is going to be something similar, I would bet. I would bet that there's a slight bit of correlation there between 10x more users and what happens to the underlying assets that they're trying to get exposure to. Any more dips and I'll be eating crackers and ramen with the mad face, a mad emoji. I get it. I get the frustration. I get it. This is all part of the plan done by design to shake folks out of these assets. By the time BlackRock CEO Larry Fink is coming out and admitting that crypto is the future, that it's going to transcend traditional currencies, well, what have they done? They've rug pulled the Main Street U.S. economy. And the decisions of the Federal Reserve have impacted countries around the world. As we report with all these other countries, their debt, currency, liquidity, food, energy, water crisis is much worse. And other countries are actually being hit with the war right now too, kinetic warfare. So we're still the cleanest shirt in the closet. We're relatively speaking still having a good time over here in the U.S. Daddy Powell, he hasn't came back and refilled the punch bowl, but he's on his way to the store. See if I could give you guys a metaphor of what's taking place right now. The party is out of alcohol. we have run out, right? The punch bowl is empty, okay? And what do I mean? The Fed stopped the low interest rate, zero interest rate policy, and they raised rates. So they took away all the cheap money. So that's why I say the punch bowl is empty. But by Jerome Powell pausing, what he's doing is he's on his way to the store before it closes to go refill. He took the keg and he's going to refill the keg right now. You understand? And when he comes back, and what that means is him starting to cut rates, money printer goes back on. And as I'm suggesting, we get Black Swan, we get simulation of 2020 events. Something happens here again, another election cycle coming up that is so critical. That is going to lead to them responding with, as they did in March of this year, full backstop of the banking system. And then they're also going to turn on that money printer once again and start to cut rates. And this is what takes crypto to the moon. And for the Bitcoin bros out there, for the Ethereum, folks out there, you're going to partake. I still believe that Bitcoin and Ethereum will run up. I just think the XRP will outperform. I think the XLM is going to do something. I believe the XDC is going to rip. These are suppressed assets that should have ran up more last bull run. But they didn't because they were caught up in a lawsuit. And XLM and XDC trade so closely to XRP, they were tied up in that suppression as well for whatever reason. David Phillips says, Zach, love your energy and desire to bring important info to the community. Keep up the great work. What you're doing is important. UM30 OSU 24 Go Blue. What is that? Michigan against Ohio State? Is that what that is? OSU, I believe. I'm kind of a little bit out of the loop on the sports, but I still remember. I used to study sports just as much as I studied cryptocurrencies. It's funny. When I was a kid, I used to put on shows for the family where I'd sit in front of the table with I would get a coffee cup and I'd fill it up with water and I'd pretend to be a sports analyst, a broadcaster. I did that when I was a little one. And now here we are. I don't watch any sports and I just come on here and talk about basically money, financial markets, and cryptocurrency. Hold XRP until it becomes a world reserve currency. You will be rich. That's where it's always been for me, Daniel. Great point. For me, I don't forget and I don't take anything that Ripple says lightly. If Ripple says something, it has been well thought out. It has been talked about in boardrooms. It's been talked about in much, meetings with big hitters that decided it was okay to put out a statement in 2017 saying that they were steadfast working on their goal of making XRP a world reserve digital currency. Okay, enough said. That's all I need to know. Keep working on that goal. Appreciate it. Keep building. But like I've been trying to highlight lately, guys, this is so good what we have on the XRPL ecosystem right now. We really have to appreciate this. For every episode that we talk about Ripple's partnerships, Ripple's adoption, Ripple's now in the ISDA, Derivatives Association, right? This is all great. This is all fantastic. New CBDCs, new partnerships. What we also have to recognize is that we have other builders on the XRPL right now as well that are bringing real value to our ecosystem. And we are ready, we are on standby to put our full faith, support, and money, resources behind these projects when they come to market. And I'm talking about smart contracts on hooks, sidechain. The Zahal ledger where they're building out the hooks. That's great. Go to the playground. I call the Zahal ledger. I call it the playground for the devs that wanted smart contracts on XRPL. You go to the playground, go build, go break, go fall off the slide. That's great. That's fantastic. As soon as it works out, we bring it back to mainnet. And we'll always have interoperability with mainnet too. XLS 38D cross-chain bridge, which taps us into every other blockchain. It's all coming. All the utility that we've ever wanted is coming to the XRPL. Just because Ethereum got it first doesn't mean that it was sustainable. Doesn't mean that it was legitimate. Doesn't mean that it wasn't a Ponzi scheme. In fact, most of them were decentralized Ponzi schemes. It's what the token factory created after the Ethereum free pass. A token factory of fraud, manipulation, and schemes. Versus on the XRPL, There's going to be a little bit of that. There's always going to be a few bad apples in the bunch. Absolutely. But the XRP community has been ran through the ringer. We've been ran through hell, and it made us strong, and it made our community smart. See, we're tapped in, and now we do incredible amounts of due diligence. How do you think we understand all of the great conspiracies so well? Is because we've been doing our research. And so when we go to look at an issuer on the XRPL that's creating a token, or as I suggested in tonight's episode, a token is just essentially a form of derivative. We're going to look at that issuer, and we're going to see if they can actually back up the claim that they're making, the derivative that they're creating. Can they back it up? That's where the XRP community is going to be stepping up right now. I hope to be a leader in that aspect of doing due diligence on AMM liquidity pools, doing due diligence on other tokens on the XRPL. I'm not here to shill. I'm not here to, try to get these projects to pay me to shill. Oh, here's the next 10x gem, the next 100x crypto. That's never going to be me. Right? And for me, just because someone says they're tokenizing gold on the ledger doesn't mean that the gold is there. Just because they say that they're tokenizing silver doesn't mean that the silver's there. Just because they're tokenizing a real estate transaction on the XRPL doesn't mean it's a good real estate investment. Just because someone's on the XRPL doesn't mean that they have a good business. We have to do our due diligence, but I see our community stepping up and getting it done, not just falling for the most recent scam, the most recent hot thing. Some of us do trade meme coins. I know some of you guys are guilty of trading your meme coins. Is our Jesus coin friend in the chat tonight? Was that Lee? That was Lee, I think. Yeah, Lee. Where are our Jesus coin bros at? God, golly, gosh darn it. Lee. Gosh. These guys are slick with it because they come in with their peace and blessings. They got their Jesus coin. I'm not here to judge. I'm not going to judge. Lee, you got to be kidding me, brother. I got to take a sip of my adult beverage for that. Cheers, brother. I appreciate the hustle. Lee says, Zach, brother, soon enough I'll make you a believer. Jesus coin is rising and blessing, and even today started a group for support for veterans. Check it out and let's spread good vibes and peace. God bless. You guys are slick with it. You guys are slick. But we're not letting the slick guys get it by us. See, we're still going to do our due diligence on Jesus coin and others. But we'll take a look. Lee, because you have given us so much love in the super chats and the support, I appreciate it, I respect it, and I love it. Thank you so much. I will take a look at Jesus coin. It's probably going to be about a 2-minute review. It's going to be a quick skim over. But out of respect for you, Lee, I will take a look, and I will report back on it. I'll make a video dedicated to Jesus coin, and maybe we'll have to start or end with a prayer, because you guys are something else. Did you know that 60% of XRP is held by the VCs and the team? Yeah, so we're going to wait to see who all has done pre-allocation contracts with XRP. I actually think that there's way less supply that is actually, what's the term that I'm trying to think of, that has been, set aside for Ripple. Obviously, the consensus, the story that we have right now is that there's about 45 billion in escrow that's been locked up and it's set aside for Ripple. But we also know of pre-allocation contracts like the one done with R3, where they tried to get 5 billion XRP. So we're going to see who all has a claim to the XRP. I think that there's way less supply that's going to be available for liquidity. I actually think that a supply shock is going to be coming in for XRP. But I don't actually think that it's a bad thing that Ripple has so much, because what they're doing for the ecosystem is positive. If you think about it this way, Ripple being the biggest stakeholders in XRP based off the fact that they hold the most amount of the tokens, everything that they do is in an effort to get increased adoption and increased price of XRP without just downright manipulating it. See, that's something that I appreciate about Ripple, is they haven't been manipulating it. Have they been selling off at, good timing? Absolutely. They work hand in hand with the market makers. in an effort to offload their XRP in a way that doesn't bring down the price. That's what they're doing. Because like I said, they have the biggest incentive to see XRP price go up. And what they're doing is acting as righteous custodians of a reserve currency by distributing it to financial institutions and banks that are actually using it for utility. That's what we want. So it's not a concern of mine that they have a significant portion of the escrow, and it is my firm belief and speculation that a large portion of that escrow has already been divvied up or earmarked for other institutions and banks, central banks, you name it, that wanted to pick up some XRP. Huge shout out to Sean Gardner, first super chat ever. Thank you, Sean. Hopefully it's a keg of Guinness. Went Ripple open door for security risk with an IPO. Well, that's the thing, is that an IPO offering would be a security, and they would have to get that approved through the SEC. So there wouldn't be any trouble. It wouldn't be any trouble. The only problem is getting the SEC to sign off on their IPO. But good question, Sean. Something that I am taking a look at right now is Ripple equity, is equity in some of these other companies. Just like Naveen Gupta was saying, right? Investing in the picks and the shovels. Something I'm looking at right now. Absolutely. XRP Blinder 5 spot. I've heard of God candles, but what do you call a big red candle on a Jesus coin chart? LOL. May green candles be with you. XRP, much love, brother. Much love. Caspa has been going crazy. Okay. I know that everybody's wanted me to look at Caspa for a long time, and I know that I'm super late, but I am going to take a look at Caspa. I just wrote it down, so I give myself a reminder. I'm going to take a look at Caspa for you guys. The thing is after these coins have already pumped so much, I don't invest, period, full stop. After they've been, already ran up so much, I just don't. But is it still going to run up more? It very well could. Daniel, I see you with a 20 spot. XRP to the moon. Believe it or not, I'm an XRP believer all the way to the moon. Daniel, believe it or not, I'm right there with you. We can go to the moon and beyond, if space is real. Huge shout out to the Discord chat. We were talking about some crazy conspiracies in the chat tonight. Got to pierce that firmament. Daniel knows. Daniel knows. Phil, we're not grifting nothing here, man. I would suggest you get tapped in with us, Phil. Thank you for being here tonight with us. We appreciate you leaving the comments, even if you want to call me a grifter. That's all right, buddy. Thank you for being here. Pull up. If you want to drop some value, drop some value. We'd appreciate it. XRP will be higher than Bitcoin in the future, that's for sure. Martin, it's been interesting to look back in the past. 36,000% returns for XRP in 2017, and it overtook Ethereum for that number 2 spot. What's stopping it from taking, Bitcoin? I'm right there with you. Right there with you. Blockchain Brain, much love, brother. XRP, yeah, I know, man. It's tough to nail down the Discord weekly call time. I've just decided a time that works for me and tried to stick to that so that I can just be consistent. I feel like that's the most important thing, is trying to be at the same time every week and then letting everybody else, kind of catching up. But I know it's not the most convenient time for everybody, because we have Discord community members from across the world now. It's so awesome to see and to hear from people that are in other parts of the world, offering their insight and experience in other countries. Yeah, Dennis, that's a good point. Dennis, good point. As far as companies looking to IPO, to me, it would be best to IPO during the next bull run, right? I think that for Ripple, the best thing for them to do would be able to IPO late 2024 or even 2025. I think that would be the best thing for them to do. What I'm excited for is that if we see a pullback in the equities markets, this could actually bring an opportunity to buy Ripple equity and some of these other companies on a discount. You know, look at Kraken. They just got sued. They're another company that wants to go public as well. And so right now, this is an opportunity for some of these companies with their equity deals where they could be coming back, a little bit of a contraction that we've already seen actually. Just within the last couple of weeks, shares of Ripple have been back down. So Ripple's been down. Circle's another one that we're looking at. Polysign's another one. Kraken maybe. Might be kind of crazy for considering that, but you know, if they're willing to put up a fight and they're, you know, willing to beat the case and to come into compliance, there's still an opportunity there to be had, right? For me, it's by the blood in the streets. If the SEC's come along and they've backstabbed, they literally backstabbed Kraken once again. They already settled with Kraken. They mugged them down the alley. Kraken came down the dark alley, and at the start, they already got mugged by the SEC for $30 million for their staking, and then they thought they were living, and they were still making their way down the alley, and then a little bit farther down the alley, the SEC jumped out once again and has now hit them with another lawsuit for offering the sale of unregistered securities for 16 tokens listed on their platform. That's building a business in the US of A. As we talked about in tonight's episode with Naveen Gupta, this is why Dubai is becoming the new capital for cryptocurrency investments. Why all of the crypto companies and the best in the world are looking at Dubai and other areas is because Silicon Valley remains in the United States, you know, under the jurisdiction of the SEC. Shannon says, I'm always blown away by the knowledge in our group. So thankful to soak up all those smarts. That's the thing, is you don't just get me, you get our community members as well, experienced in real estate, experienced in a lot of stuff. Is it going to take the dollar collapse for XRP, XLM, and XDC to finally run up? Bino, I don't think that we have to see it collapse. I think that we see the Fed pivot, and that will destroy the value of the dollar when they pivot and they start to print once again. That is going to be devaluing the dollar, i.e. inflation. But what inflation leads to is it takes more dollars to buy your ounce of silver. So in a way, yes, it is the dollar collapsing in price, but it might not be a collapse. It's more of a destruction of the value, right? It's a devaluation. So then instead of taking $25 to buy your ounce of silver, it's going to take you 30. It's going to take you 50. Right? Instead of this bar being worth $250, this is 10 ounce, right? This goes up to $500, right? Even if we're just go to $50 per ounce, this little bar right here that fits in my palm could be worth $500. See, it doesn't take much for this to get interesting for silver. And it doesn't take much. So, you know, you don't have to have $1 million to go to your dealer and buy $25 worth of silver. One little coin right here. And this thing could be flipped into $50 in the blink of an eye. So that's what we're watching right now. We still need to get stablecoin regulations before we get significant price. It looks like we're going to get stablecoin regulations first, which will be important, absolutely. And it looks like we're going to get definition on security versus commodity definition later. And we might only get that from the courts even, right? If anybody in Congress is ever going to stand up, get something done, maybe subpoena Gary Gensler and pass legislation, that would be fantastic. But it looks like they're interested in giving us legislation on stablecoins first. And the reason why I think that is because the stablecoins is the biggest threat to the US dollar. Stablecoins is the biggest threat to the fiat currencies issued by the central banks. So that's why they want to pass stablecoin legislation first. And with securities, it's already actually pretty clear. If you have an investment of money that is based off the expectation of profits, based off the efforts of others, then you've met the Howey Prong test that goes back for 80 plus years. Now, the underlying asset, the underlying token, in most cases is a commodity. It's just it's a token that gives you a little bit of utility in a network. It's a piece of technology. In most aspects, it's going to be a commodity. But what folks did is they packaged their commodity in an ICO offering, and they raised investments from others. And it was an investment, an expectation of profit based off of what they were offering, what they were selling. And they were giving you a token, you were giving them money. That was an investment contract, right? So that's very clear. Now, what I think has to be clarified, though, is proof of stake. Proof of work and proof of stake, that to me gets interesting. Because if you have a network that isn't decentralized, it is truly centralized, just to use any token that you want for an example, say Ethereum. So one could make the case that Ethereum is centralized based off of the main stakeholders controlling the majority of the network. And by you staking your Ethereum, are you, investing in an investment contract with the other parties in a common enterprise? That's the other prong. Is there a common enterprise? We're going to find out in the courts before we find out in Congress. That's what it looks like. When it comes to stablecoin legislation, it looks like they're going to be passing that by next year. Hopefully. Hopefully we get stablecoin legislation by next year. And when is the next debt ceiling limit? I need to look that up right now too. Because I know that they passed it. We averted the debt crisis, but the debt ceiling is going to be coming up once again. Currently, the debt ceiling has been suspended altogether as of June 3rd, 2023. And this is why I don't even understand why we came up on another debt ceiling crisis, because I thought that we had already removed it, right? What's the next? They just keep kicking the can down the road. Next debt ceiling deadline. Let's try that one. Debt limit suspension ends on January 1st, 2025. This is the thing. They've already opened up Pandora's box once again. So I talk about in March 2020 how Trump opened up Pandora's box, and I call it Powell's Pandora's box, along with the Treasury Department. And what Trump did is he actually moved the Fed kind of under his control through the Treasury Department as well. That was kind of an interesting shift that he did. But what he did is he opened up the money printer, Powell's Pandora's box, but then he was controlling where those funds went through the Treasury Department. And that's where they opened up PPP. That's where they opened up stimulus and all the Main Street funding programs, right? That was all to drive liquidity into Main Street economy. Okay, now what's happened here is they've, basically gotten rid of the debt limit. There's a suspension of the debt limit until January 1st of 2025. So they've essentially opened up Powell's Pandora's box once again. We're just waiting for Powell to hit that money printer once again. He raised rates at the fastest pace in history to kill us all. And then now we're waiting for him. He's eased up, he's paused, and he's going to keep rates higher for longer, but he may start to cut by next year. Most expectations is that he's going to start cutting by next year. The problem is that most folks forget that when the Fed does that, when the Fed raises rates and then they plateau and then they start to cut, by that time, the economy has entered recession and the stock market and real estate are falling off in a major way. So that's the point in the cycle, in the timeline that we're at for equities, stocks, and real estate right now. Open checkbook until 2025, 100%. That's exactly it. Whatever program Biden wants to find funding for, he's got the green light. And they just forgave another $127 billion of student loan debt. Which, is the student loan debt a racket? Is it messed up? Absolutely, absolutely. The problem is we're broke, and by forgiving that debt, it only makes us more broke, more in a hole. Hey, good to see you. Very easy hydroponics. Alan, thank you. Zach, great to see you on a live stream. You always got good content. Midnight for me on the East Coast. Have a good night, everyone. And it is that time, isn't it? We're approaching midnight on the East Coast, 9 o'clock over here on the West Coast. Huge shout out to everyone who tuned in tonight. If you guys haven't already, please make sure that you like the video. I got more content dropping tomorrow. We have additional tactical wealth lessons along with business development program that I'm going to be recording tomorrow as well. And I'm going to be dropping those installments for our Discord group. That's going to be this week. So if you want to get tapped in with us, like I said, it's all over at my website, ZachRector.com. You sign up with Patreon to get access to Discord. We're running a special through the end of the year. Take advantage of that. Along with the one-on-one sessions, we are now filling out our calendar with one-on-one sessions. We would love to have a chat with you. Come on by anytime. So with that being said, guys, I'm going to wrap up this session. It's been a pleasure as always. And I will see you guys tomorrow. We'll be dropping some more content. And I hope that everyone had a blessed Thanksgiving weekend. Thank you as always, everyone. Desi, another $13.99 Canadian funny money. Huge shout out to the Canadians in the chat. Interview with Andy was amazing, brother. Thank you for all the value and all you do to keep us informed. P.S. I think you misread a chat in response to a hater a while back. Wasn't meant for you. Desi, maybe I did. I probably did. That happens. That happens from time to time. My apologies and much love for the super chat. Thank you, everyone, tonight for all the love. Always a pleasure. I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you. God bless.